What's up? Today I want to talk about pressure. So pressure is one of those things that all of us as athletes, we face it throughout our career, and it's one of those things that can often define us. It can define who we are, it can get us to the next level, it can help us become the guy in a situation, right? So you come through in the World Series, you come through in the Olympics, you come through in the clutch for your team, that can vault you to new levels that you've never been to before. So today, let's talk about pressure and how you respond to it. But before we do, make sure you subscribe to my channel. So every week I'm putting out new videos and I want you to be a part of it. So if you haven't yet, consider subscribing. Okay, so on this diagram, you can see I've got pressure, right? And from pressure, we've got a lot of factors that are involved. So first thing that we'll cover, there are things that you want, right? You want to win, you want the glory, you want to make it to the next level, you want a scholarship, you want a pro contract, you want to impress people in the stands, you want to impress your teammates, you want to be known as the guy or the girl who everyone can rely on when situations get tough, right? So things that you want can be a crutch just as much as they can be a driving force in your work ethic. And obviously the other thing is consequences. So with consequences, no one wants to lose, no one wants to be embarrassed, no one wants to let our team down, no one wants that scout in the stands who's watching us to just pack up and go home. I've lived that, we've all lived that. So the things that we want and the consequences about the things that we don't want, oh, I could lose a game on this pitch or on this play. If I don't catch this guy, he scores a game-winning touchdown. You know, all that stuff, we have to push the positive and the negative out of our head to really handle pressure well. But those are major factors in that pressure that we feel. So the other things, expectations, and fear and doubt. So there are expectations based on who we are, right? So if you're the cleanup hitter of your team, if you're the, you're the quarterback on your football team, if you're the star player on your basketball team, there's expectations that come with that. And a lot of players, when they become high draft picks, when they're highly sought after, they get big scholarships, they get the starting role as a freshman in high school maybe. That puts a lot of pressure on you because you have to live up to the hype, right? And man, are people critical. They can be awful, just trying to tear people down who are put in those prominent places. So the identity of who you think you are, who you want to be, what other people are expecting you to be, all those things can really bog you down. And when you find yourself in those situations, like, God, I've got to come through here because otherwise everyone's going to talk about how I never come through, how I'm a bust, how I was all just hype, how I'm not as good as they said I was. So that stuff is really tough to deal with. And then fear and doubt, we doubt ourselves constantly. Everyone has that angel and the devil on our shoulder where, one of them is telling us that we can, and usually the louder voice tells us that we can't. So those are big factors and they tie into all of this. So the fear, the doubt ties into things you want, the consequences, the stuff you don't want, the expectations and who you want to be as a player. Like you want to be a champion, you want to be a gold medalist one day, whatever it is. That's who you feel like you are inside, and you have to live up to your own expectations. All that stuff plays out in fear and doubt, and it makes pressure situations even tougher. So then the question is, how do we respond to this? So number one, we need some mechanism. So I believe heavily in meditation, and when you meditate, you typically take a belly breath. So a belly breath is when you push your stomach out, and then you pull back in. That's sort of how infants breathe. If you ever see a newborn, they breathe with their belly going out and in, not their shoulders up and down. And that's important just because it seems to help relax us a little bit better. But when you practice your breathing off the field, when you find yourself in a pressure situation, you can return yourself to a state of calm, to a state of, meditation and relaxation by breathing in the same way that you usually do when you're in that situation. So if you find yourself out on the field and you're in a really tight pressure situation, take a deep breath, and hopefully that reminds you to relax and stay present and do all these other things that we're trying to do. So that's a physical response to pressure. And after that, what do you do then? So number one, our goal is to stay present. So staying present insulates us from the consequences and the things that we want. So there are no championships in this moment, right? Right now, all we have to do is make this one shot. All we have to do right now is make this one putt. All we have to do right now is wait for the starting gun, right? All we have to do right now is see this pitch out of the pitcher's hand. That's what staying present is. So we want to ignore the past, ignore the future, and we want to break our game down into single units as best we can. So a single unit is, what's the smallest increment that's relevant to you right now? So if you're a swimmer and you're about to start the biggest race of your life, the only thing that really matters at that moment is the starting gun, right? You get set, the only thing you have to think about is the starting gun. You hear that, you react, right? In baseball, as a pitcher, I can throw one pitch. That's the only thing that I'm capable of doing, is I can throw one pitch to this hitter right now. I can't throw a complete game, I can't throw a whole inning, I can't strike a guy out, I can throw one pitch. So you have to figure out in your sport, what is your singular focus? What is the single unit that you want to break it down into? And that's what we want to stay at. So when we're present, we're not thinking in the future, we're not thinking in the past about, you know, times we've choked under pressure before, or what might happen if we choke under pressure this time. We're just trying to break the game down into a single unit to stay present in this moment and just react and be the athlete that we know we can be. Other things we do and don't want to do. Number one, you can't try harder. So you can only, in the end, be yourself. So you have to try exactly the same amount you usually try. So you can't say, okay, well, I'm a contact hitter, I'm gonna try to take this guy deep. If that's not your game, then that's not your game. You have to play your game and be yourself. You have to remember that whatever brought you to this situation is what's gonna carry you through it as well. So the old saying, dance with who brung you, means if whatever training and mental skills and whatever it is that got you to today, it's gonna be good enough to get you through today. And if it isn't, it isn't. But you have to sort of, when you get to the dance with the partner that you came with. That means take your skill set, who you are, don't try to be someone else, be yourself. And that's my last note here, is be yourself. So you have to know, number one, you have to know who you are. So being self-aware, having strong self-actualization is very important as an athlete, because you have to know what you can and what you can't do. So when we try to do things that we're not capable of doing, you know, being a power hitter when you're a contact hitter, being a power pitcher when you're a finesse pitcher, when we try to do stuff that other people can do but that we necessarily can't, we just set ourselves up for failure. So you have to run your race, be yourself, and don't try harder, just make the best possible effort you can in the singular moment, breaking the game up into a single unit and staying present. So at the end of the day, pressure is always going to be part of our sport, whether it's recreational or whether it's, you know, you're on TV in the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals, the World Series, the Olympics, whatever. But pressure is something that we want to embrace. That's what makes you feel alive. Now that I'm a retired athlete, that's something that I miss the most, is the competing and the pressure and the fear and the response that you have to it. It brings out the best in you when you know how to deal with it well. So hopefully this video helped you. Pressure is one of those things that we deal with constantly in sports, and sometimes we just don't know how to face it and how we can move forward once we've either had the right response or the wrong response in the past. But hopefully my video today and the diagram helped you understand some of the elements that are involved, some of the ways you can respond, and what you can perhaps change going forward in the future. So if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave me a comment below. I always respond. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.